everyone, I'm the real Manos, and I'm going to be doing something a little bit different for this review. Matter of fact, I want to try to do kind of podcast-style discussion videos. I've been wanting to do this forever, and technology's hard. So I've had Ian help me out here. So
Hi.
and this is Ian, also known as Sid Part 2 from the Sid Part 2 channel and Geeky Gentleman. Say hello, Ian.
Hi, everyone. I'm helping.
Yay! He's my first guest on the show. And, yeah, I'm hoping to have him and a few others like Deadpoolzilla back. I'm going to kind of do Steveolution this way, I think, in the future. I like this kind of style, and I have been really terrible. So, you don't really want to hear all about that. You want to hear about She-Ra. That's why you're here. So,
You are here to hear two grown-ass men talk about a cartoon made for girls.
Yep. Yes, it pleased my male whiteness. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we're going to be discussing, I don't know, maybe 20 to 30 minutes about it, if that's okay.
It's fine with me. Your show, sir.
Cool. All right. This is our discussion and maybe sloppy, unorganized review. I don't know how much Ian prepared. Of She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, new on Netflix, that just premiered this past 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And let's see, Ian. Let me start with you since you're the guest. Do you have any experience with She-Ra and He-Man?
A little. So I'd never watched the original 80s run of either of them. But I did watch the 2002 He-Man show for like the first season when I was a kid, because that came out when I was like 12. So I was right around the age market they were targeting with that one.
Yeah.
But I never saw anything of She-Ra until I saw the first episode of this show.
Yeah. That's, yeah.
Not a single, like, I maybe saw like Robot Chicken make fun of She-Ra a couple times in the same way that they did He-Man. But otherwise, really, my besides the 2002 show, my biggest interaction with He-Man was like this really old YouTube parody where they're just like clearly got like a VHS recording of a He-Man episode and then just voiced over it, and it's really immature and stupid, but I kind of love it, and that's about all I got.
Immature and stupid is generally a reaction to a lot of He-Man filmation. I, of course, am a teenager of the 80s, and that premiered right in the sweet spot for me. I think I was like 13 or something when that premiered. And I was kind of, sort of, out of cartoons, had kind of one foot out the door. And He-Man, I liked it first and then got really tired of it very quickly. I thought it was kind of silly. And, of course, what really got me back with cartoons was Transformers. I got really into that show as a teenager. But He-Man was definitely part of that. That was kind of the beginning for this era of toy commercials disguised as animated shows.
Yep.
And I did watch He-Man. Fun fact, Paul Dini wrote some episodes of that.
Wow, that's crazy to think about.
I know. And J. Michael Straczynski created She-Ra.
Wow.
Yes. And
That feels so weird because that doesn't feel like his era at all, you know?
Hey, you gotta work. You gotta pay the rent. And I did watch She-Ra from time to time. It wasn't like my show, but it was on in that block of like, afternoon shows. So I did occasionally watch it. And I do have fond memories of that and Filmation, which, I get a lot of people who are talking about She-Ra and She-Man haven't really watched much of other Filmation shows. And they're pretty much the pinnacle of what Filmation could do. They were pretty much on the cheap. They reused all the time footage. All the time. Not like sometimes, but like you would notice it like every single like few seconds. And of course, like a lot of the stuff was silly. They did a lot of like cartoon versions of live action shows and films. Like, I believe they did the Planet of the Apes show. They did a Batman, the one with Batmite. They did a Gilligan's Island. They did 2 Gilligan's Island shows. The second one was Gilligan's Planet.
Oh God, no, no,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, it's really bad. So you gotta get the idea here. So now we get to what year is this? 2018, and
Mhm.
Noelle Stevenson, who she is the co-creator of like Lumberjans and Nimona, which is a really cool graphic novel. I do recommend it. Lindsay's a big fan of it. She bought a copy of it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, this is kind of like this is one of those things. So it's not like someone remaking a classic that everyone loves and has some shakiness to it. No, this is remaking something that wasn't that great and had
I
some.
mean, dude, I in preparation for this review last night, I
Yeah.
watched the first episode of She-Ra just because it happened to be on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't like it ends on a cliffhanger, and I could not bring myself to watch the second episode because it was just that bad.
Yeah.
Like it's so weird because like it's clearly something that's trying to aim more for girls, but still just so wrapped up in like the stupid macho-ness of He-Man. It's a bizarre mess, and so this remake has no right to be that much better. This remake has no right to be as good as it is when it's based off of that.
Yeah, it's rare when the remake or reboot is so clearly profoundly better. Because look, for someone who grew up with that, I can point out like everything that's wrong with it, but I'll still have a place in my heart for that stuff, and I'll know it's not great. But this I can actually enjoy on an unironic level, and they talk about like, hey, you should remake stuff that wasn't so good, that was only okay, and kind of like refine it for a remake. And this, I think, is a great argument for that because it takes a lot from She-Ra. I mean, they don't make up a lot of stuff, and they kind of flesh it out. And the only thing they really take out really is He-Man. And this works. This works. See, the way they do it in He-Man is, He-Man gets told, like, hey, you really need to go to this other planet and deliver this sword and make... And, he's not even told everything he needs to know. And that's an obvious... Well, you're spinning it off. That would be an obvious way to do it. They don't have that kind of luxury here. But to be honest, they turn a potential negative into a positive because they give a chance to kind of like have She-Ra stand on her own as a character. And for those of you who really haven't delved into this yet, She-Ra is Adora, and she was raised in the worst military school ever, the Horde. And they are apparently this evil taking over this whole planet, Etheria. And I guess they got their start a few years earlier, and there was a resistance against them, and they beat that resistance down, and now they've been kind of slowly succeeding, taking over the whole planet, and there's these little pockets of kingdoms all over the place, led by princesses. Oddly enough, a little bit like Adventure Time. And there is Glimmer, who is the princess of Bright Moon, and she is just like irritated because she wants to prove herself to her mom, and she wants to fight back, and she sees the resistance kind of cowering and just taking care of their own and not really rising to the occasion. And she's rather frustrated. She's working with Bo, who would be the best friend ever. I mean, I think we all need a guy like Bo in our lives. And that's when Adora encounters the sword, and it tells her like, you have this destiny, and she of course gets really attracted to that, and that's of course like brings the rift between her and Catra, who they were raised together through the Horde, and they were kind of keeping each other alive apparently. And now that becomes kind of the relationship that drives the plot through this whole season, which essentially it means kind of getting the princesses back together as a real resistance, as well as Adora and Catra finding their places in this world. And that's season 1.
Yep. No, I was absolutely blown away by how good this was. like I really didn't know what to expect. I saw Noelle Stevenson, who I just started following her on Twitter after watching this, but I didn't. I just usually like I circle the comic book community, so her stuff pops up now and again. I saw her talking about this and how she was really really proud of it and all this stuff, and was like, I'll give the first episode a watch. And it gets to that scene where Adora first transforms into She-Ra, and she's like blocking the giant bug monster. I'm like, and then credits. I'm like, okay, I've got to watch the second episode now. And like, you get to the end of the third, which is really just one story all the way through, where She-Ra comes and presents herself to the queen and like says, I want to fight for you and Bright Moon and join the rebellion, but there's something you have to know. And then she transforms back into Adora, and it's like this huge controversy because she's a Horde soldier, and just like, it's just really, really good. It's like really, really well-written drama that just works on this grand epic scale of fantasy and stuff. And it's really, really emotionally impactful. So like today, I rewatched just the first episode, and like I started to realize there were visual connections that are not paid off until like the last episode or around the last episode. So
Yes.
like in episode 1, Adora like falls down a pit and catches herself, and Catra comes and they kind of have a conversation while Adora's just hanging there. And you get to, I believe it's the episode Promise,
Yes.
where it's just Catra and Adora walking around this temple, and you get that same dynamic again. She's hanging there and looking up at Catra, and it's just, that's their whole relationship. The whole frenemy relationship is so damn tragic. It's just like I saw it coming from the first episode, man. I was watching the first episode, I'm like, oh man, they're the bad guys. Like they don't present it like that right away. They ease you into it, but I'm like watching like, oh no, these guys are totally the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
What's gonna happen here? And then you see like Catra and Adora get separated. I'm like, oh man, this is gonna get sad. This is gonna be like Fox and the Hound sad, and it's exactly that.
It is. I knew from the get-go, well, I mean, just my relationship with the old show, but also the trailer kind of like examines that a bit. Like, okay, they're going to be, that's a friend of hers, and they're going to have a split. I mean, geez, the opening dialogue between the two of them, how supportive they are about Adora getting the promotion, and that little conversation they have. Oh, yeah, it's obvious Catra's kind of bummed out about it, but, she's happy for her, and Adora's also acknowledging that. And then that shot of them sleeping together with her, like, with Catra sleeping at her feet like a cat.
Mm-hmm.
And you see this terrible nightmare that they've been raised in, but they're there for each other, and they keep each other safe. And I remember watching that and thinking, shit, this is gonna get really, really, really serious. And it does, because it is the focal point of the show, I think, and how real it is. Now, I know some fans want to look at the relationship either romantically or like sisters or friends, and what I think is so smart about the way it's written is however you view that works, because those feelings are really raw and real, and they're kind of universal, because I think we've all had a meaningful relationship in some form just go right down the toilet, and you get in those positions, and like, hey, I'm gonna show up at this place I know you're gonna be with my new friend, and I'm just gonna be a complete asshole to you. Or hey, that scene where she was trying to like fix Mermista's wall, and Catra is talking shit to her. Like saying, hey, you always kind of were dumb. Yeah, she's kind of manipulating her, but there's that aspect of the breakup, that stage of the relationship, a breakup, we're going, you know what, that person is stupid, and I hate them, and they're annoying. Where you start telling yourself that, like, oh man, they suck. Which is why I'm constantly obsessed with them.
It's so impressive just as like a hero villain dynamic. And yeah, there are all these interpretations of their relationship. Some people are shipping them, some people are saying sisters, whatever it is. For me, it worked the best as friends. It really did. But, whatever you want to read it as, they leave it pretty open for that kind of interpretation. But it's such a great hero villain dynamic because as good at everything as Adora is, she's actually really bad at being a rebel soldier. She was like raised rank and file to fight in like a traditional military overwhelming force kind of tactic kind of thing. And so she's kind of just flying by the seat of her pants as She-Ra, just kind of a glass cannon almost. And you've just got Catra there, and so the time she can actually really shine and prove just how good she is by going up against Adora, who she knows inside and out, and she knows that she's not able to handle all this. So it's just this intensely manipulative thing, and you're just hoping every time they run into each other on screen, you're hoping that Adora can pull her in, can get her to come to the light. And Catra does have that just moment of like, I'm the villain of the story. I know I'm bad, but I'm good at it. And no one's ever appreciated me for anything. And so I'd rather be it's the Lucifer moment, right? Better to rule in hell than serve in heaven. It's like literally that dynamic. And so it's just like, holy crap, the vindictiveness, the sense of just absolute betrayal. It's incredibly satisfying and incredibly enthralling drama.
It is. And it isn't until Adora leaves that doing this and getting this direction really occurs to her. She would have been happy just with the two of them protecting each other. Then when she realized that's gone, this is just amazing. I just really... Catra's probably the best solidly written character, and a cast of really well-drawn and well-written characters. In that, I mean, their goals become parallel by the end, because Adora has no idea what she's doing, because she has been, she's kind of like what they say, being like in white privilege or something like that. She has no idea what's going on. In the original, she kind of had to be told, and then I think it was He-Man who said, go look around, see what the Horde's doing, and she observes a couple things. But this one kind of fleshes that out with her really slowly realizing, she sees a destroyed village with people obviously dead. She talks to Glimmer and Bo about it. I love that exchange where he tells her, well, they're the evil Horde. And she gets all...
Who calls us that?
Yeah, gets all attitude about it. And he goes, everyone! You idiot! Everyone! I love that it doesn't let her off the hook initially. She's this person, and also Catra realized it as well. And
well, the funny thing is, Catra knew it all along, and Adora just caught on to it once she was out. Which it kind of serves to really early on exemplify how different they are, because it goes back to Catra's character, who best character in the series hands down. Goes back to Catra's character of she was fine to just be comfortable and not achieve. She's very apathetic until she's crossed, and then suddenly all this latent potential comes out, and she immediately rises through the ranks and just is really, really good at being bad. And that's there's great lines from her. She keeps pulling Adora as She-Ra in all these different directions. 3 or 4 times she uses the exact same trick, which is pay attention to me, not what you should be paying attention to. Because you're so caught up on trying to save me or trying to fight me that you're not going to pay attention to the thing that you should be worrying about. So they do it at the party, they do it during a couple of the other battles, but they do it at the end battle. and She-Ra's off there fighting Catra about to die, and she's like, you can't win this fight. And she's like, I've come a lot farther than anyone thought I should. But what makes you think this is all about me and you? And then they look over and the whole kingdom's about to collapse. Mm-hmm. Insanely powerful moment. Just like shows how easily manipulated Adora is. Now, let me ask you a question since you watched the original series.
Yeah.
Was it like commonly known that Adora and She-Ra were the same person like it is here?
No, that's actually one of the differences I wanted to get to in this conversation, if we had time, is it was a secret identity. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. Because, look, you can make the argument that He-Man had a secret identity because, well, he's this guy, fighting around, and he's also the prince, so that might be awkward. Mm-hmm. So I could see the reasoning for the secret identity thing. She-Ra had a secret identity, I think, because He-Man
had a secret identity. Yeah.
So that's, there you go. That's enough reason. This one, I think, wisely just throws that out. Because there's no reason
makes it
for it.
So much. It makes it so much more impactful.
Yeah.
Just it personalizes everything so much.
I think they use it wisely because the transformation, just for the moment, leads to confusion to some of the characters. Like, okay, who is this? Where did Adora go? Oh, wait, crap. She is Adora. I like that in the way it's used that way, where it's momentarily confusing to everybody. And then they kind of catch on. Boy, man, that scene where Catra first realizes, it's very subtle. It's not done too big, but that scene where she realizes that She-Ra was Adora and she's turned against them, and she has that look on her face of shock and hurt and then anger as she runs off into the smoke, and it's very quick. That's maybe 2 seconds of animation. Mm-hmm. But that's some really good visual storytelling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. The first 3 episodes and the last 3 episodes are the best in the entire series, but there's still a lot of really good going on in the background too, which is
correct.
really, really cool. But I mean, I think the entire show is Catra and Adora's relationship. I think as much as I like Glimmer and I like a lot of the plot stuff they're doing and other characters like Entrapped is great, Scorpia is hilarious.
I love Scorpia.
I'm a hugger.
oh man, and Kyle.
Oh yeah.
I love that joke. He's not in the original. But I just love the idea. There's Hordak and Shadow Weaver and Catra and Scorpia and Kyle. I love that kind of joke.
It's the Pac-Man. There's Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Glide.
Yeah.
That's I really like a lot of the characters here. I like a lot of the episode stories. Like the whole episode where they're at the ice fall is really interesting and all that stuff. That's great. But just, man, without Adora and Catra, this whole show is just instantly worse. Instantly not as good. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. I think if that wasn't the primary part of the show, I think this would still be really solid. Because the storyline, man, I mean, it's so much of the main storyline. But I think they could have done a really good job for what they were. The creative staff, the way they're working, the animation is beautiful. Yeah, that could have been. It still could have been very good, but this, I think, just frankly took this to a different level. Really, this, like you said, it was so far beyond what it should have been, and they just went for it. They put everything they could into this, and I just, I was expecting to really like this. And it really did. It blew my expectations away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I was expecting to be interested in it. I was expecting to watch an episode or two and then give up on it. I was so hooked right away. I was so blown away by how good this was. I'd heard a bunch of the quote unquote fan, probably not really outrage about the character designs. I was like, I'll support it just to piss those guys off if nothing else. And it's so much better than that. It's not even funny how good it is in comparison. It is just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, if you say the old one was better than this, I mean, I can't take you seriously. Look, I love the old one, but come on, man, it's not. It's nowhere near like you can't put you can't even put them in the same like category.
I mean, I think anyone that likes the old one at this point is almost all of nostalgia. To be fair, I didn't watch it. I only watched an episode. Maybe I don't have room to talk, but like I tried. I gave it a fair shake. I knew what I was getting into with Filmation. I knew what was going to happen. It was still just unreasonably bad.
I did something similar myself. Like a couple of months, I think it was around the trailer. When the trailer came out, I decided to sit down and watch the first 5 episodes because that's the first story arc.
Wow, 5 whole episodes. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, that's the way they used to do things in this era of animated shows when a big event come up. When they were doing event stories, it would be a 5-episode miniseries. You know, all the major shows did it. And that's what they did this when they were introducing He-Man's sister. So yeah, she kind of gets the idea in the second episode, and then you gotta learn the whole basics. What's cool is I don't know if they're going to be able to use He-Man in this because of rights issues.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I've been hearing some stories left and right, so I'm not even sure if they're going to be able to. But what I like is they so far from what I've been able to see is they've basically written themselves room to have He-Man in it.
Yeah, because you got like the whole alien race or some crap.
Yeah, and Eternia is name dropped outside of obviously Grayskull. I look forward to one of the characters wondering, hey, what the hell is Grayskull? Why do we have to honor that? What is that? So, but I think the story, the way it's going and what they're telling, if they can't go there, I think that would be fine. I'm hoping like maybe later in the season, or not season, in the series, we could kind of end with that revelation. Like, oh, hey, you think things are crazy. The first ones are from Eternia, and hey, She-Ra, you're actually a twin sister of this guy, He-Man.
Some crap like that would be nuts.
And what would be interesting is, like, if He-Man were able to come to Etheria for at least, like, a story arc, I think that would further, like, damage her relationship with Catra.
She had, like, this, brother character, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and an actual sibling that she could bond with. And that would, like, further pour salt into the wound. And let's see. Before we go any further, I want to talk about let's see, kind of Shadow Weaver and Hordak. Particularly Shadow Weaver, I think took like probably the secondary villain after Catra in this, and she was really interesting because there have been times in the old show where she did kind of like seem like she was plotting against Hordak, but she never did anything. This, I think that was kind of all laid out there. By the way, I really loved her new design.
Oh, the freaking creepy hair and like the slinking around stuff. Oh, I'm a sucker for that.
I know, it's like the Grudge.
The flaming hair kind of shit. Oh, that really works for me. Shadow Weaver was really creepy, and you did just get the sense that she hated Catra. Catra would do stuff so well for her, and she would find like reasons to nitpick her to death.
Holy shit, that relationship is so great because like she when Catra does well, she takes her the credit for that. And I love that also when you add Hordak into the mix because you very quickly get that Hordak and Catra are on the same page, and I love that there's a nice moment where. I think Shadow Weaver takes Catra before Hordak to kind of chew her out, and Hordak
promotes her ass.
Hands Shadow Weaver her ass, and there's that cute moment where like Catra smiles, like, okay, I got a friend. This guy gets me. And
then Catra gets a big moment to kind of show just like. She's not just got skill in regards to Adora. She's got, this really good ability to kind of pick people apart. She's really good at comprehending people in a snap.
Mm-hmm.
So she completely tears down Shadow Weaver like the second she's allowed to,
Mm-hmm.
and she turns Entrapta in an instant, and like I don't know, man. Can Entrapta redeem herself after almost destroying the planet and handing it over to the Horde?
I don't know. And she's right there. I mean, in the last scene, she is right next to Catra and Scorpia. Like on the bad guy side. I mean, this is like that's that kind of scene where like, okay, these are the bad guys scene, and she's right there.
I mean, like Entrapta was one of my favorite characters in the series. She was cracking me the hell up, and then like there's that moment where they're all trying to escape, and she gets stuck, and it looks like she died. And I'm like, oh shit, that is so sad. I can't believe she died. And then you see her back the next episode. I'm like, oh, good. You turn, I'm like, no, this is worse.
That was the twist I wasn't expecting. I did kind of expect maybe her to be thought to be dead and then escape. And then, or like from behind the lines, like, help, defeat the bad guys. But yeah, that twist where she just easily gets manipulated with no problem and joins the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
And She-Ra and the others still think she's dead by the end of the season.
Mm-hmm. And the weird thing with Entrapta is she was kind of a villain from the start. Like her introduction episode, she's the fucking problem.
Yeah.
She did the shit, and she doesn't really ever do anything for the rebellion until the princess crew is working together to infiltrate the Horde, and then she's captured and does a whole lot worse to the rebellion. Like they win the day and protect Bright Moon at the end of the season, but they clearly mention the Whispering Woods, which is like this big natural barrier to prevent the Horde from just launching attack after attack after attack. It's completely devastated, and like that barrier is not there anymore. Like Entrapta has straight fucked them.
Yeah. It's when you rewatch the season, you go, oh, it's right there. She's a a genius, a scientific genius, but like as a person, she's kind of a stupid, amoral person. Like she has zero morals. Like, hey, I get to make stuff for the Princess Rebellion. Cool. Oh wait, no, I can do it for the Horde. Okay, fine. Like she doesn't care. Like, oh, I just get to do things. So that would be interesting. I'm very curious. Like that's one of the twists in this season that I'm very curious to see how it plays out in future seasons. Like, okay, where does Entrapta go with from here? Like, does she stay with the bad guys?
I don't know. I really don't. That is my number one thing to come back for season 2, because like I obviously, again, Catra and Adora's arc is probably the best thing in the entire series, in the entire season, but like I think they're pretty firmly set in their places now. Like, I don't see, the whole first season you're wondering, can Adora pull Catra to her side? By the time you get to the episode The Promise, the answer is firmly no.
Oh, yeah, The Promise is the end.
Yeah, that's the end of that dynamic, and then the last 2 episodes are fallout from that. Entrapta might be the most interesting story arc of the next season, or maybe they'll spend all the season trying to get Entrapta back and end up converting Scorpia or something like that, because poor Scorpia doesn't get paid any attention.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious. I know that's going to be definitely a plot thread that they're going to be picking up, and I'm also curious about where Shadow Weaver is going to be, because she is ousted, and like her powers defeated her powers. Seemingly taken away from her, and she doesn't seem like a person who would just kind of retire after that. She is definitely going to come back, and I'm very curious as to in what form. Like, how is she obviously is out of the Horde, so like, what kind of like advantages will she take? She's obviously part of that chapter of like sorceresses. That's a little more difficult to say than I thought. That's kind of dropped mid-season. So I'm very curious to see. They seem like they have a little bit more history with her. So I'm very curious to see where that goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a lot of like you really get the sense that there might be a lot of jumping sides back and forth throughout this series, given with what they did with Entrapta.
Oh, I could see that. I mean, Kyle might jump to the other side.
Yeah,
That
that's
poor
very
guy.
possible.
That poor guy is just getting ass kicked like every scene he's in.
He is not meant to be a soldier. He just is not cutting it, man. Oh, I feel bad for him. He's like so in the wrong line of work. He would be a very good tailor. Just something, just literally anything else. Yeah, he's a fun little intriguing character there.
Great, and apparently I don't know, he apparently has a relationship with the lizard guy who doesn't get named.
Wait, really?
I don't know. Well, they're at least like, I don't know if it's a romantic relationship, but they're definitely like close friends. Like the lizard guy is constantly like looking after him.
I didn't pick up on that, I guess.
That happens a lot in the background. There are some characters, if we're talking about future storylines, there are some characters here and there that didn't appear in the first season. I assume they will be starting to appear in the second season. So that big furry guy was a character in the old show, so I assume we'll see him more. Damn, I cannot remember his name. But there was a big werewolf-looking guy in one battle scene. He was an old She-Ra He-Man character. There's some that I'm kind of flaking on. There's so many characters in this old show. It's like, all these things are all like, X-Men. They're like 80,000 characters because they got to sell them all.
Yeah, pretty much. The original series was made to sell toys, and this is trying to make characters out of that, which 99% of the time doesn't work. This time it did.
It did. So, like, I'm kind of like mystified now when I think about this. It's like, does this mean there could be like a good Mask remake or a good like GoBots remake? Well, I mean, GoBots has been blended into Transformers now, but oh my god, like it's really cool when you. I'm a big proponent of doing just this, taking something that, man, almost was really good and has some really cool ideas. Because like when I watch, when I watched that first 5 episodes. I was surprised. There were some really interesting things in there, and a lot of the things we're talking about was in there, but like very, very minorly done. Like, the whole idea of growing up with one idea of a philosophy and then realizing it's not true. That's not hit too heavily. It's kind of just basically just to get She-Ra in this other place, and that's it. It's over.
It's all there for the twist. It's not there to really inform the character.
Correct. Yeah. Like in the original She-Ra, like when she decides to be like a good guy, well, that's it. Fuck those guys. We don't have any like relationship fallout or anything. So that's one of the things I was hoping to see in this show, which delivered big time, actually. There's some characters that are just like, man, they're just so much cooler. Like, of course, Hordak is much better. He doesn't snort, which was...
Does he go, meh?
No. Well, that's more Skeletor, really.
I know.
Here's the thing. I think any reboot with Skeletor, no matter how serious, he should still talk like that. And I don't know. There's something, to me, that feels kind of fun. Like he's this scary, muscle-bound skeleton with the hood and the scepter, and he's all scary looking. And he talks like this, you morons!
I mean, like I said, I rewatched the first 3 episodes of the 2002 He-Man series, and like, man, they really took this seriously as a reboot, and they did like a lot of what this is doing.
Yeah,
it's taking the concept more seriously. It's doing a lot of things, but it's just it didn't really get away from the philosophy, which is kind of like overly masculine boy stuff, and so it's got. It's cooler, but it's got all the same trappings. It's got really like hackney dialogue. Getting a real writer on here helped a lot. The writing here is fantastic. There's very little cliched dialogue and stuff. There's just like really thoughtful stuff that's almost just in there in the background. Like Swift Wind is freeing horses because he's capable of complex thought and realizes his people are enslaved.
Yeah.
And he's like, just randomly talks to the queen. He's like, about the horses you're enslaving. That's really clever kind of writing to throw in there. It's just in the background. It totally works.
And I love the development of Swiftwind. Like, at first he's this horse that Adora like freaks out about, which is a cute moment. And I love, because I knew what the horse was, so her calling it Horsey all the time was really funny to me.
Horsey is a very bad name for a horse.
Yeah, I love that line of Madame Razz, like, oh, he wants me to make sure to tell you that Horsey is a dumb name. That's still one of the funniest lines of the season, actually. I also love the fact when he transformed the first time, he had this horse freak out about it. Because, he's suddenly transformed and suddenly intelligent. That's gotta, for a horse, be, a mind blower. I mean, fuck, horses get freaked out over anything. And also, I gotta say, I really did enjoy... I did say that Hordak, who I thought was, well used. I think he will be more played out in the next season. I think the threat of him, is made clear. He almost has this sinister devil-like quality to him. It's a good redesign.
Yeah.
And I like the creepy baby thing that is doing his spying.
Do you have any complaints about the series that you can think of? I have one really specific thing.
Well, you have one more than I do, because I knew I wanted to do either a video by myself or with you about this, and I have been kind of racking, oh man, what's that one thing that I can complain about and seem like I am a fair critic? But I can't really grab a thing. Really, I can't. What's the thing that's kind of bugging you?
It's weird because, I'm more aware of Noelle Stevenson than I am of She-Ra. And so, I've seen Noelle Stevenson post her little, mini comics that she'll do of stuff on Twitter and whatnot. And, she has this thing she does with her art style, which I think works better in still format than it does transitioning to animation, where I don't know what I'd really call it. It's meant to be, I believe, the bags of the eyes and kind of the bridge of the nose and stuff. She just does kind of it almost looks like a little bandit mask, but just slightly off. And she does that on her comics all the time, I'll notice, kind of like a bash line or something.
Oh, yeah. The sort of Band-Aid-like...
yeah. And,
line.
I don't mind it on one or two characters. It's just it's on a lot, almost all the characters here, and it starts to get a little weird and just flat. And so it's not this breaks the series. It's just something that I noticed and began it's becoming too noticeable. It's becoming distracting.
It may have been a little overused. May have been a little overplayed.
That's just kind of one thing that kind of rubbed me. I'm this is. I keep looking at it, and I know I'm not intended to. I just keep noticing it, and that, I don't know, it just feels weird. It's one thing when it's on one character. When you start throwing it on every other character, it just draws your attention too much. So I don't know. That could easily be one of those things they drop as they try to streamline the show more for future seasons, or none. I'll just have to get used to it.
Yeah. It was one of those things where I'd start noticing it, but not to the point where it would bug me.
Gotcha.
But you're right. They did kind of overplay that hand. It's maybe but I already said they slowed it down. Maybe hopefully next season, especially if it becomes a thing. Yeah, you do kind of do that too much. Okay, maybe we can slow down. Some shows will do that. Steven Universe had way too many. No, I shouldn't say that. But they had a lot of sad episodes in the first couple of seasons, and they did kind of slow that down. They even started making fun of it halfway through the show. And now a lot more episodes are a little bit kind of more I don't want to say action oriented, but the characters are kind of more together about the things that were making them sad. So it happens less. But this is more like a quick visual animation cue. So
yeah,
that's an easier thing to tweak.
Like, I'm just going through Google Images and looking at a bunch of them, and like I found an image of like 3 of the princesses and trapped the plant one and the water one, as well as Seahawk the pirate.
Yes.
And like literally the only one that doesn't have that is the plant one, but she has like freckles. I'm just like it. I don't know. It makes everyone look a little too samey or something. I don't know. It's just a like very specific thing I noticed.
It's a little too uniform, I think, is what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. That was like something that stood out to me, but it's not like show breaking by any stretch of the imagination. It's like this show was great, and then this fucking detail ruined it.
Oh my god! I'm gonna make 30 videos about how it's bad.
I've watched through this entire series 17 times, and here's a list of everything they do wrong.
Yes. Oh my god! Here's all the blush things. This is my supercut.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it's like it's hardly that. And look, if that's the thing you can point out, then yeah, that does feel like it's pretty good. Because I literally, if it, like I've been kind of like I've been actually rewatching the show this week to see if there's anything kind of anything off I could maybe.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like the problems I could come up with were mostly animation related. I thought She-Ra's height was pretty inconsistent. Yeah. Like you just notice it when she's around people. Like sometimes she would be just slightly taller than Adora. Sometimes she'd be like legit 8 foot tall.
Yeah.
And that I don't know. That got a little.
I'm also kind of used to that, especially with Transformers and Steven Universe have that kind of like height problem. Especially old school Transformers, where it's really bad at it. So I don't know. Maybe that might be just going, yeah, messed that up. But yeah. But it is something. It is something I've noticed in animation before. I like the fact that she's like a different height and she's bigger. It's a transformation. It's like. Because they call the old show transformation. Like, change your clothes. Mm-hmm. I don't.
That is like legit a thing that always bugged me about '80s He-Man. Whenever I saw clips from him, like he's clearly He-Man. Like, people complain about Clark Kent and Superman. At least he's like carries himself different and wears like glasses and baggy clothes.
Yeah.
Like Prince Adam's just like He-Man with a shirt on. Come the fuck on, guys.
I know. Like Clark Kent laughs at his disguise, and She-Ra had that too. It's like, sorry, different outfit. Okay. She has a legit. She has a legit transformation, and it's not a secret identity, which is kind of cool. Because you could actually, if they wanted to go that route, they could have. Because she's physically different, but I'm glad they didn't. I don't know. It's just everything is just so. It's almost like not even so much a remake or reboot, but it's like a second draft on a previous version. These are neat ideas, but a whole bunch of this stuff is goofy. Let's throw them out or streamline them. And this is the show we have. Like Madame Raz is much cooler in this one. I love the fact that they went with a Baba Yaga kind of style with her, because she was one of those dorky sidekicks that Filmation loved to do. Like everything, like Bo was really great. We haven't really talked too much about Bo, but I really like Bo a lot.
He was super fun.
Yeah,
he was super entertaining and hilarious. Very very cool character. He didn't get a ton of dramatic moments, but when he did, they're pretty cool. Sometimes even the dramatic moments were a little funny, like it was an honor fighting beside you, horsey.
And he sells that line,
right?
Like he sells it really serious too. It's and of course we talked a little bit about Glimmer, and I love how. She has a little bit of a story arc too, where like she's kind of coming into her own, and she is like frustrated as hell at the beginning, because she feels like everybody's just like protecting their own and not doing anything, and we should do something, and like I need to prove myself to my mom, Queen,
which was like really good in a as a political message. Intersectionalism rules, y'all. In this day and age, I thought that was very much needed. Intersectionalism kicks ass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of like some people talked about in favor and not in favor of the political allegories in this, and I think they're all so nicely subtly done.
I don't even think it's a matter of subtly done. I just think that's exactly how it should be.
Well,
This is anything made in this day and age. If it's not being political, it's kind of being irresponsible.
True, that's true. Well, I'm talking about, I'm being charitable, and when I say subtly, I mean like a stupid person could watch this and not realize it.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is really fun.
Actually, do you want to use that to talk about some of the like controversy, quote unquote, leading up to this, and some of the way it's been received?
Let's see. Maybe a little bit. To be honest, I kind of there's a lot of this kind of like talk that it's just so ugly and negative and really, it's so frustrating to listen to. I hate the fact that it was kind of the conversation for the time being, but we can talk about it a little bit.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, there was just that whole thing of, like, oh, it's the SJW version of She-Ra, and I'm just like, what? But then there's, like oh, she should have, like, D-cup breasts. I'm like, it's a fucking kid's show, you perverts, get out of here. So, like, there's that whole thing, and that's just me, face-palming and wishing to get off of this planet. But then there's like some of the more interesting stuff of how it's been received that I find really, really fascinating, because this, we mentioned that this can be read a number of different ways, and how people are taking some of these character dynamics, that there's a lot of strong hinting, if not out and out, confirmation of LGBTQ relationships. Bo and Seahawk kind of got something going on, it seems like, in some scenes. Like there's a lot going for it that's really, really embracing that. And so the LGBTQ community has really embraced it in that way. One thing that I've found myself kind of teetering back and forth on, that I've heard like a take on it, that I don't know if I'm bothered by it or if it's just emotion kind of getting the better of some people. But I saw a reaction, which is, thank God we have She-Ra, which is something just for women and girls to enjoy, and men can't take away. And some guy with a My Little Pony avatar responds is like, that's a little harsh, but whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, dude, this is exactly why. But at the same time, yes, this is totally something that is made to be enjoyed by women, by girls. Mm-hmm. But it is made at such a high quality level that doesn't matter. It easily transcends that, because it's just, end of the day, it's good drama, it's good action, it's a good story. And so I don't know, I feel it's kind of destructive to have views like that, because ultimately this is the kind of thing that you need to happen, so that we don't have boys shows and girls shows, so that we have stuff that's like representing women well and complexly and in interesting ways that can be enjoyed by all sexes. Yeah. And not have to be, oh, well, you don't get why yeah, it's not good, but you don't get that I like it because it's made for me. It's like, no, it's made for you, but it's also made to such quality that anyone can watch and recognize what's good about it. And that's what I'm really appreciating here.
There's so much to unpack, really, because, I remember my nephew, when he was, like 5 or something like that, I realized, and he realized at the same time, that we both liked Powerpuff Girls back when it was on. And he was really, like, blown away, like, oh, hey, Uncle Justin likes Powerpuff Girls. And he thought it was okay now to admit that to me, and he did it in this kind of like secretive, like, we're it's cool, and it's too bad that he had to feel that way. Mm-hmm. Because like there is this kind of restriction that, and this isn't brought on boys from girls, this is brought on from boys onto other boys, that you can't watch this thing that's primarily designed for women, or at least has a feminine like design to it, although we don't give, by far lesser extent, that crap to girls who want to watch Batman or something like that, where you know, there are those wonderful in-between shows like Power Rangers, for instance. And I said wonderful, but yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I liked about Power Rangers was it did really bridge that gap during a time we kind of needed it to. And it all goes into this kind of like framing device of the genders of what you have and what you have and what you can't have, and that I think kind of like I get really irritated when I like, you know, hear that talk about like, you know, people really angry about the body diversity in this, and like acting as if she was more masculine frame or Glimmer's more plump frame or insults. And they take that. I really think that's a disgusting way to take that argument. Like, oh, these are insults to women and femininity. Which, look, there are people who look like that. And there are people who are our friends and our family and our coworkers. And they are, a lot of them are good people, and a lot of them are heroes in their own way. And they can be respected. And you know, when you say that they're not allowed to have heroes like that, in a way you're saying people of different body shapes aren't allowed to be respected, aren't allowed to be looked towards as someone is a hero. You know, that goes more than just a simple cartoon, that kind of argument. And that's the thing that kind of bugs me over and over again when I hear that kind of talk. And I think now there's always those turds that think everything old is good and new stuff is bad. But there's this element that I think is kind of sinister, where people just like, right now especially, anything that hints at any kind of like progressive like themes, they gotta jump right in and pretend they've always been a fan and they're doing it for the fans and that kind of garbage. And like, oh man, they just poison the well.
I mean, it's bad faith arguments is all it comes down to.
Terrible faith arguments. And when I talk about She-Ra, I try to avoid that kind of talk, but it is right now, I guess, if we're talking about season 1, it is a little unavoidable to mention, although I'm not going to... If they do a season 2 and I do a video like this for season 2, probably not even going to acknowledge it, because...
yeah, the controversy surrounding the release was something I kind of just rolled my eyes out, and like I said, part of me just wanted to watch it and be supportive of it, just a middle finger to those guys. But then there's like kind of that knee-jerk reaction after the fact, and like, yeah, I totally get why it's important to have something that is made, like, impressively, this is almost not only like a majority female cast for the heroes and stuff. This is a majority female crew, animators, writers, producers. I'm tempted to say it's an all-female, but I don't know that much about it. I'm sure there's probably a guy somewhere in the sound mixing department or some shit like that. But it was very intentionally made to be an all-female show made by women for women and girls, and that's very commendable that it's something that needs to happen. But for me, the reason I feel that I like this so much is because it is something that's made to be made for women, to be marketed toward women, but it is something that is of such a high quality that it doesn't even matter because it transcends that immediately. And so, yes, I'm not going to try to be a guy and say, like, no, guys can like this too, and it's for guys because it's good. Like, no, it's for women, and it's good, so I'm able to enjoy the fuck out of it.
And that's the important thing about having diversity behind the scenes, you know, because look, it's always kind of been there, but the more diverse forces were relegated to, like, you know, more remedial jobs, and the ones who really took the credit were usually the white guys. That, of course, we've seen break down more and more over the last few generations, and I think we're really kind of seeing it come across now. I think Rebecca Sugar, being Cartoon Network's first female showrunner, was very helpful. Laura Montgomery, who directed a whole bunch of DC films, is one of the main producers on Voltron. And Voltron, yeah, that's kind of like a, you know, guy robot shoot 'em show, but there's a heavy, like, female perspective in the show, and those characters are really well handled. And that's all it takes. It's just for the voice in the room to kind of like create something a little bit more honest.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. It's a really high quality show, and so yes, it's totally for women first, but it doesn't matter because the quality transcends that immediately.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. And this, I don't think that this will be stolen by men like My Little Pony was. And I think that's kind of the fear that motivates comments like this. Like, thank God it's a show that's just for women that men can't steal. I do understand that happened with My Little Pony, and I do think the brony community is kind of nuts for getting that attached to a show that clearly wasn't for them on any real level. This, however, this is damn good, and I'm glad that not just the nerd community, but it seems like this has been a real hit with girls and stuff too, which is really great. So we've got some quality television to grow up on now.
And that's the thing. One last thing about the controversy is one side's been talking because we haven't seen anything. And now that the series has been able to come out, we can actually see it and have a real conversation about it. I mean, it'd be a different story if this came out and was bad. I mean, I was a little worried, like, oh, please don't be bad, or don't even be mediocre. This has to be great.
And it was.
And to be honest, that to me ends the conversation. Like any kind of real serious conversation is how great this is. Kind of profoundly, very obviously better than the original, and I think it's great on its own, even if you have never heard of it. I actually today I came across this girl doing a reaction video, and she kind of did a super edit of her reactions to the season, and she very obviously hadn't. I don't even think she'd heard of the original. So yeah, I mean, it works on its own. So yeah, look, I am just very impressed by this series. I'm very relieved to see like a little tidbit of my childhood come back so strongly with a creator I trusted, and I look forward to seeing. I haven't heard any official pickup on it yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing more of this series. Well, I guess I usually do a rating, so I will definitely right now. I mean, obviously, season 1, 5 out of 5 Ram chips. I thought this was amazing. If you've even heard of kind of She-Ra or even not, you can go in this completely blind. And really enjoy it. You probably won't be going too blind because we really talked a lot about. Oh, hey, spoilers. Is it a little late to say that?
You can put it in the title.
Yeah.
She-Ra season 1 spoiler cast.
Yes. All right. What are your final thoughts?
I mean, I absolutely love it. I the video speaks for itself. I think really, really great season of television. To my knowledge, the first really, really great Netflix animated series, I watched a little of Ultron and thought it was okay, but just didn't hold my interest. Everything else I watched on Netflix animated sucked, like super hard. So this was exciting to see just how damn quality it was. I really hope that they can get some other stuff like this going too. But yeah, for ratings, 5 out of 5. Gray Skulls.
Yeah. Let's honor that Gray Skull. I have to say, just one last thing about Netflix. They have been really hit and miss in their animated productions. They obviously really want to...
Oh, Castlevania's good too. That's
yeah.
right.
Man, they're hit and miss. And I think right now, I feel like they're kind of getting their footing. Because I like Voltron a little bit more than you. And Castlevania is really good, and Hilda is great. I do recommend that. I haven't done a video about that, but that's a really good show.
Okay.
And I
didn't even know about that one. I just remember like Kong, King of the Apes, and Tarzan of Jane, and like, oh god.
It's also a cute. It's also a cute show about a young girl, and it's based on a graphic novel series by the same name, and it's about I think it's about a girl who lives in this universe that magic and creatures are kind of just part of life.
Mm.
And a lot of the mythic creatures feel kind of Nordic. In a way, it does kind of take that kind of turn. And it's really interesting. She was raised in the wilderness with her mom in a small cabin. I guess she was homeschooled. And then stuff happens, and they decide to move back into the city, where there's still that kind of stuff hanging around, but there's a clear separation. And it's a really interesting show. It's very similar to Gravity Falls in some way, but it's not as edgy with its humor in the same way that Gravity Falls is.
Okay.
I feel with that and She-Ra and Castlevania, I really do feel like I feel like Netflix has kind of found itself, and I'm very excited. Hopefully, this will continue to be a success, and maybe we can really see some cool stuff from Netflix. Because not since the 4 networks stopped showing cartoons,
Mm-hmm.
that we really had a really good platform outside of the networks, really. Like
Mm-hmm.
Fox Kids and WB Kids were the last really cool things to hang out and watch. But I don't know. We'll see. All right. Anyway, this is Ian, by the way. In case you aren't familiar with his channel is Sid Part 2, and you can catch everything he does with Geeky Gentleman. Anything you want to tell people about your channel?
I mean, if you're just a person that really likes podcasts and content, there's a lot of it over there. 3 episodes of Geeky Gentleman a week, all at least half an hour long. I do weekly comic reviews every Wednesday night. I do a trade review almost every week that gets posted again on Fridays. Or no, yeah, Mondays, sorry. So there's just, butt ton of content over there if you're a person that just always wants something to watch and put on in the background and listen to people talk. So yeah.
And I appear at least once a week on your channel doing the fan film reviews, and I hope to do I do kind of random stuff here and there in some of the Geeky Gentleman episodes. I want to do more. I never do as much as I'd like on your channel.
Definitely. We'd love to have you on more.
Great. Well, hey, check him out. Ian also is the guy who made my Mystery Science Theater logo, so I'm very grateful to that. All right, I think that's it. So if you want to follow me on social media, hit me up on the Twitters and the Facebooks, and you can support this channel on Patreon if you discovered this video and really thought I was worth a shot. You can help support me so I can kind of grow it a little bit. And you can subscribe, and hit the notification bell! I can't say that without saying it like a douchebag. I don't know why.
Smash that like button!
Oh yeah, smash it, bro! Alright. Anyway, I am the realist.
And I'm the philosopher, if we're just gonna write off of it. Nice.
Yeah. Good night, folks.